So, we are on tour again, visiting the exhibitors of the Cool Climate Wine Summit 2026. I'm now in the Mittelrhein region in Germany. Look at this, beautiful, right? And I'm standing here with Kai from Weinbau Heilemann.
Hey guys.
Thank you for having me here, and thank you for joining us at the Cool Climate Wine Summit. I think it's amazing that we promote the Mittelrhein a little bit more as one of the very classic German cool climate regions, all like slopes, and very deep slopes. And before I think we talk a little bit about the effort you're putting in here and the great wines that you're making and where you're coming from and the estate, I would like to start with our open-ended questions that we have for each winemaker, to introduce you a little bit more personally. So Kai, first question. If you would not be a winemaker today, what would be the alternative for you?
Well, I'd probably be a researcher, a scientist. That's what I'm currently doing as kind of a side job, apart from winemaking, is researching on grapevines. And right now I'm in the enology department. I do a bit of research there. I teach a bit, so that's kind of fun. And if I wouldn't be out there, I'd probably be in the lab.
And you're doing your research activities at the moment at University Geisenheim, correct? Where you also studied and where you currently are in the PhD program for enology.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Super. Second question for you. I mean, now you are a winemaker, partly at least. If you have to point to one person that really influenced your winemaking style and your winemaking philosophy, is somebody coming to your mind that you can mention?
Sure, yeah, that would be Leo Übel from the Weinviertel. Hi, Leo. He's a great guy. We've been there for a whole year and we learned a lot from him, from his point of view on the enology, on winemaking itself, on biodynamics, and on his whole view basically on the world. He's kind of like a mentor for us, and yeah, that's one person I would name if I'd be asked that question. Yeah.
Beautiful. We talk about biodynamics and your take on nature like just in a bit, I guess, but third question first. If you should describe yourself and your personality as a bottle of wine, which kind of bottle would you pick for that?
Interesting. Well, if I could choose one of my bottles, I'd be a Glissade Riesling. So from the steepest slopes, maybe. A bit reductive because I'm often very sweaty and working hard, so a bit stinky maybe, like a reductive Riesling, from the steep slopes. That would be me.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Sounds odd, but yeah.
Sounds maybe a bit odd, but I mean, let's talk about natural wine and reductive notes in a bit, because I think it's very important when talking about your style and your minimum intervention style that the wines come with. But that's a good bridge, I think, to talking about nature. I mean, I just have been around with you in the vineyards here, and I clearly can feel here something that you are from a very young, dynamic, aspiring winemaker generation that really wants to go back to the roots with nature, so to say. So what comes to your mind when you think about nature and its influence on winemaking?
Well, first of all, any plants that are not grapevines that are so important in the vineyard and that we try to protect as good as possible. Try to seed plants as cup covers and all the small animals that influence the flora, the fauna of a vineyard. So nature itself here in the Mittelrhein Valley is very, very diverse because of the diverse areas we have with the stones, with the dry walls, with the vineyards itself, with hedges and trees, and it's very diverse, and that's something we'd like to protect, and therefore we do our best here. Yeah.
And you were talking earlier about all the kind of wildlife and animals that we're having here in the vineyard. I mean, this is, what did you tell me, like 60 to 80 degrees slope behind us? And we have deer here, right?
Yeah, sure.
Walking around and eating.
There's deers, there are other small animals trying to get to the grapes during harvest. So there's plenty of wild boars, for example. There's plenty of other animals. The bigger ones try to eat the grapes. The smaller ones are very much welcome, except for Drosophila. It's fun to see. You walk out the door and you see some deers walking in your vineyard, and of course that's nature for us, living directly and close to the vineyards. Yeah.
Wonderful. Can you give us a kind of brief introduction to the winery? Where are you coming from? Why are you living here? What are you doing here?
So we started studying in Geisenheim. We've been there for the bachelor and the master. We worked in Austria a bit and came back to Geisenheim. That's where we started making our very first wine. It was a Pinot Noir from that region here. We were on the hunt for a winery for quite a time, and then we found this little diamond here, and it's from a colleague. A former owner has worked or is working in Geisenheim still, and yeah, we had very nice 2 to 3 years now taking over this winery step by step. So started out with 1 hectare, now we have 3, and we bought this winery here, and we feel very much welcome in this beautiful small town here in Kaup. And yeah, it's very much fun to work here.
So you have these 3 hectares now that you work biodynamically?
No, it's organic.
It's organically, okay.
We haven't made the transition yet. We're still interested in that topic, but we don't feel that we can apply it right now. So we're making some small steps there, but we're not biodynamic.
Some of them, for example, are you're really focusing on the diversity, so breaking up the monoculture, right? I mean, we just walked over your vineyards a little bit further down to the valley, and you talked us about the pear trees that you are growing, and some rosemary and some thyme and all kinds of herbs and
that's something that we're generally interested in, is the vitiforestry or the agroforestry combined with grape wines. So that's something to bring more diversity into the vineyards, to plant trees, to protect them from different aspects of climate change, and to generate more diversity in itself. So that's something that we do, and we try to maintain that year by year, plant more trees,
and maybe like another take that I found super interesting to see, because we have a lot of, and we talk about global warming a little bit later here, but we have a lot of like change in the wine industry at the moment. I mean, the Mittelrhein is a very classic region for Riesling, naturally, right? Definitely. But actually, we will taste 2 wines from you today, and we will neither taste the Riesling.
Yes,
we won't actually. But also, like what I found interesting, you are focusing a lot on PBs, right? So behind us here we have some
it's a
Helios variety, and you planted some Calades Blanc a little bit further down. So that's also something that you really actively look into.
That's our plan for the future, at least, to plant more PBs. We now have 2 vineyards, and we try to get more over time. Get rid a bit of that Riesling, especially here in this side valley, which is a bit more humid and more difficult, and try to be more resilient in terms of pesticide management and getting healthy grapes more.
And let's taste the first wine, which is maybe like a little bit a big surprise, because I was pretty flashed when you introduced me to it and said you have it, because it's a Petite Arvine.
It's a Petite Arvine. That's right. That's our Grand Jeté. We call it that way because we name all our wines like ballet dance moves. That's because my wife Christina has danced ballet for over 12 years, and we see that connection between the dance move and the expression of the wine. So this lovely wine, that's a Petite Arvine 2023. It's a grape wine cultivar that is not a PV, but it is an autochthonous grape cultivar from Switzerland. So this one here was planted in 2007 by the former owner, and it's a very special, very rare cultivar. Very late ripening, so harvested usually in end of October, beginning November. High acidity, crisp, mineralic, and what's very typical about Petite Arvine is the salty finish that it has.
I mean, saltiness you immediately have in the nose, right? It has a little bit this, sometimes people feel a little bit like offended by the connotation, but I sometimes have in wines some sweatiness, you know, this kind. I always call it the positive connotation of sweat. You just worked out and you like to smell yourself sweaty because it gives you such a satisfaction feeling, and this is what comes immediately in the wine with the minerality, very nice and ripe fruit. It's maybe like even like a little bit like what you say, like apples, like in late season, right?
Ripe apples. It's a bit flowery too. So some spring flowers, I get that. And,
and all your wines are spontaneously fermented?
Yes, definitely.
And no sulfur added?
So we start by picking all grapes by hand. We press them with an old basket press, a wooden one, which you just saw down in the cellar. And what we do is press it, no filtration, no clarification. It is immediately brought to the barrel, spontaneously fermented, no other additives, and then just before bottling, we rack it one time from the full lees, usually after 30 months in the barrel, and then it is bottled, unfiltered, without any further additives.
Yeah, I must really say, like, as when you describe the process and this like kind of natural minimum intervention approach to winemaking, what I really feel here is all the like different like layers of effort you put in, right? I mean, it was also like in oak barrels, it was fermented in oak barrels, it was on the lees, and what I immediately get here is power, substance, and I get tannins. I really get like a really good tannic structure in this wine. Was it also like on the skins for like a little bit?
That's whole cluster pressing.
Whole cluster pressing, okay.
But anyways, because of the intense fruit and very small berries that this cultivar has, you get that feeling of tannins and structure, also from the wood barrel itself. And yeah, I feel that supports the wine, gives it a more longer attitude, more long taste, right?
So did you talk to the former owner actually about what his reasoning was for planting this Swiss wine?
Very much cultivated to climate change. So it was 2003 and his Rieslings were quite old very soon. So they ripened too fast in his mind. Yeah. So he was looking for an alternative and asked around also at the university, and there he was recommended to plant Petite Arvine from Switzerland. That's why he drove back to Switzerland, and I shouldn't really say that, but he somehow managed to get some grapevines.
Which were probably not allowed back then to be planted in Germany.
It was a gray zone. But anyhow, he planted them right here in the very cool and high altitudes of the Blüchertal, the side valley here in Kaup. And right now we have 14 to 15-year-old plants that are already deep-rooted and bring very nice, flavorful grapes. Yeah.
Beautiful intensity of what you have in the glass. I mean, great food wine, right? I mean, definitely. You immediately think like some even meat on the table. You think about a fish or some seafood dishes.
Fish dishes, seafood, salty food. Yeah,
really lovely.
Also some Swiss cheese and Comté, for example.
Oh, I'm in for that. Some Gruyere or something like that. Yeah. Life is tough. So you live here now on this very lovely estate, and I mean, you have a lot of projects ahead, right? Because at the moment. I mean, you live down there with your wife and your parents too, right? Your father was running around here, at least I saw him earlier.
Helps a lot. The former winemaker helps a lot. We have some friends coming over.
Beautiful.
So yeah, there's a lot of renovation to do. There's a lot of vineyard work, of course, to do because we work organically. Yeah. We do not own any machines that could do like mowing, for example, or soil tillage or whatever. So it's very much focused on a hands-on work.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So maybe walk us a little bit through there, because I mean, you also like during your education, you have been in Austria and many like other regions that are definitely not having these kinds of slopes. So if you would compare your work today here in the slope, and maybe also like explain to us why you had this urge to go here and not to Rheinhessen, for example.
Okay. So this here is also where I grew up. Like grew up in a village nearby. And I learned working in the steep slopes just before my university studies. I was in the Rheingau in Lorsch, working on steep slopes, working organically. It's something that fascinated me directly. And of course, that was a lot of fun. And I thought to myself, if I ever have a winery back then, I would go back to the steep slopes. Yeah, definitely.
And I guess it's a lot of effort. I mean, we were just looking at one of the vineyards that you're planting anew. And we just had the question like, how do you stand there? Because it's like, where do you like get your hand on something? And you were just like, you just balance, right? I mean, you become a little bit a mountain goat at some point.
There's some wires to catch maybe, but yeah, mostly it's balance. It's some experience you need, and of course, it's a nice training for the whole body, like a full body workout, being in the steep slopes.
Let's talk maybe a little bit about the Mittelrhein region, because it's also something we talked about when we walked the vineyards. I mean, the Mittelrhein in Germany, at the moment we talk a lot about that it is not the smallest wine growing region that we have, right? So the acreage or the area under vines is shrinking significantly. We have less and less producers being here in the slopes and making wine. How do you see that? How do you see the future of the Mittelrhein? What's going to happen here to maybe reverse the trend a little bit?
Yeah. Well, we have that changes that you just mentioned. We have declining areas. We have winemakers stopping to grow wines here. What I feel like is that it's a huge opportunity, especially for young winemakers that would like to have a chance to work on their very own fields and get into making wine, because everything here is easy to get. You can start working here immediately. The people are very nice and friendly. They help you out, and you can start very easy, even though you are not owning very much money, for example. Right?
Okay.
So that's a big chance for young people to establish something. And the name Mittelrhein itself is not known for any very specific thing, like except maybe for Riesling. So there's a chance to develop this brand, Mittelrhein, maybe for a young generation that is motivated to work here. Right?
Let's move on to a second wine, and I think this is a very, very nice wine to illustrate a little bit also the effects of global warming and climate change here in the valley, because we chose not to have a Riesling in the lineup, but a Spätburgunder.
Yes, it's a Pinot Noir. We call it glissade. Glissade is referring to the steep slopes. So the gliding movement that you have when you walk down the hill, or sometimes when you walk up and get pushed back because of gravity. And glissade, as a dance move, is a gliding step. So that is the connection that we see from wine to winemaker towards the dancer, for example. And this Pinot Noir is from our steepest slopes, from the south-facing side of Kaup. It is linked to climate change in a bit, because we see that harvest is getting much earlier, or much more earlier than it used to be. So this was harvested beginning of September, and we had many difficulties maintaining the acidity, even though we are in a region where acidity has never been an issue, right? So there you can see from that aspect, sugar and acidity, the changes that climate change will probably bring in the future. Right? And we are very lucky, I guess, here, because of the formation of the landscape here. We're having different parts, facing more eastern, facing more south, which gives us plenty of ways to play around to keep a wine balanced, to mix and keep the acidity, the freshness in the wine. Right?
I think it's the first thing that's really striking me. I mean, of course, the first thing you see clearly in the color is unfiltered, right? Which is the style that you work with. And then, of course, in the nose, you immediately get some extreme freshness. It's extreme much on the cherry side, on the fruity side. It quite, so to say, acidity to me. There's some floral element, of course, which we have from the Spätburgunder very typically. There's something tea-like for me, something like nearly like hibiscus tea somehow. I feel a little bit reminded of kindergarten, you know? We always had these like big like steel tanks, like 15 liters with sweetened hibiscus tea. And it has a little bit like this connotation to me, which I find very, very lovely.
Yeah, for me, in this wine in particular, I find these cassis flavors quite striking there. It has length, it has volume to it. It is only at 13%, which is quite high actually for us. So we try to maintain alcohol levels between 11 and 12 usually. But in 2023, so this vintage, it's quite hot. As I said, early harvested. We're around 13, but you find this balance between a cool wine and a volume, a body that you can actually feel. Right?
But again, I really like it. You clearly see like the work that you do in the cellar, or maybe not do in the cellar, so to say, right? Which is interesting because it really comes again with this like extreme structure. It was also like probably like a whole bunch pressing, I assume, so we get a little bit of grip.
So partly destamped, actually mostly destamped, and quite a short maceration. So I feel like the tannin is more coming from the used oak barrels, and a very soft pressing with the basket press too. So I think this wine needs to develop a bit, like a year more or so. So we'll see in January. We'll bring this wine and we'll see how it goes.
Definitely looking forward to that. No, but very structured, very lovely, super nice style of an interesting type of Spätburgunder, totally different than like in many other regions. Of course, you work with grey slate here mostly, right? So there's maybe some similarities to the R or to the Mosel winemakers making Spätburgunder, but I think it's a little bit more powerful to me than we have it in the R Valley, for example, which is often more this very elegant, very structured, very acidic. I have here, because of the way you work, a little bit more of substance and grip, which I personally really find admirable, so to say. It's really nice now, probably much nicer even in 5 years, like developing hopefully greatly with all the elements in the winemaking. It's beautiful. And you are planting more Spätburgunder, right?
So we have another planting this year of Pinot Noir, some clones that we plant in the very south-facing sides at the very front, facing the Rhine. We try to plant more red cultivars here, also because of climate change and also partly because we really enjoy making red wines. And this is something that makes a lot of fun, and we enjoy these wines here. And we do not want to stay on the typical, do not want to be seen as a typical Riesling winery, but want to have both Riesling, Pinot Noir, and some specialties like the Petite Arvine, for example.
Lovely. And now when we talk about climate change, maybe like very quickly from your perspective, how does it like turn out in the Mittelrhein at the moment for you here?
Well, the biggest impact I see right now would be the periods of constant weather, so to speak. Like we have prolonged periods of drought, prolonged periods of rain, like last year. And then what was very unusual was this late frost event we had last year, which has not happened since like 30 years or so. So we get these weather extremes, we get these prolonged weather situations. So it's getting tough, but I feel like we are still in a good situation here. So it's not as dry as in southern Europe, for example, and not as hot. So I feel like we have a good chance of keeping the vineyard safe here for a couple of decades.
Beautiful. Okay, that's good to hear, because I mean it's definitely a topic in all like German winemaking regions and also like in the Nordics. Exactly what you say with the changing weather patterns. It's not only like it's getting warmer and warmer and warmer, but the problem is more like we have more irregular patterns, right? And I mean it's agriculture. You have to blend with something, and if you cannot blend with it anymore, it's really difficult. I mean definitely. We're looking much forward to have you at the Cool Climate Wine Summit in 2026, and people come around and taste those amazing wines. It's definitely absolutely worth it. To round it up a little bit, last question, 5 years from now, where are you and where's the Heilemann winery?
So I'm hopefully there, working in the steep slopes. Our main goal now is to establish our winery, to make it safe and sound so that we have a place to work and to live here. So that we can sell our wines, that people like our wines. So that is the main goal right now. And hopefully in 5 years we get the chance to develop even further. As I said, we would like to work more on the topic of agroforestry, vitiforestry, keep the biodiversity here and maintain the vineyards. That's our main goal then.
Beautiful. See you in Copenhagen. Looking forward to it. Thanks for having me.
Cheers.